Yo, what's up? Today we are gonna visit an old build of mine, Shot+Barrage Assassin. So this was a build that I created in 3.10, I believe, Delirium League, if the patch is correct. And it was a popular build. I had like 400 subscribers and the video got something like 25k views, I believe. And I was like, what's going on? So I wanted to do this build again for a long time and I always forgot about it. So this is a perfect time. And let me just make this clear, the Path of Building will have two different equipment sets. Only two pieces are different, rest of the gear is the same, because I also wanted to test Forbidden Shako. So this is normally a very expensive helmet. It is still expensive, but because the drop pool has changed, it is actually easier to acquire this helmet right now. So I tested the build with the Shako and without the Shako. There are gonna be clips with both versions, let's say. All right, so with the Shako the build has like 30 something million DPS, without Shako 25 million, I believe, DPS. So the DPS is still very high. All right, you definitely do not need it. So there are gonna be two versions. Just check the path of building depending on your budget. This is obviously an archer non-meta different build, let's say. So that's why you should spend some currency. This is not a low budget build. This cannot be a league starter. I also use some boss drop uniques like the Voidfletcher Quiver, one of the most powerful quivers, and still haven't got any nerfs. So we are also gonna abuse that, and let's hope it survives the patch notes. So I will just leave you with the clips now. After that, obviously, I'm gonna explain everything you need to know as usual. Alright, I'm back. Before going any further, please, if you are new to the channel, subscribe to my channel. You can also join my Discord if you want to chat with me and other players. You can also give me build ideas if I have spare time, like now, because it is the end of the league. I'm doing those different league starter low budget builds these days, but this is an exception. This is a high budget build. So if you want to give me any ideas, you can also join my Discord, talk to me. And if you are feeling generous, you can support the channel and just check my Patreon page, alright? So let's just start. So first of all, how the build works, and why Assassin, why not maybe Deadeye, Raider. So in 3.10, the time that actually they just added the influence types in 3.9, but I believe I made the build in 3.10 in Delirium League. So I actually tried to do the similar build, but changed some of the items, and obviously the talent tree is completely new. So back then, because they added tailwind boots to the game, I was like, okay, why should I play a Deadeye? Because that makes no sense. That's why I actually created Assassin, and it turns out it is way better. It was way better. But right now, I'm not sure if Deadeye is better or not, but with the same equipment, if you just buy the same equipment in this video, actually, you shouldn't play Deadeye because it just sucks. You just lose like 10 million DPS. Because this equipment won't work on a Deadeye, unfortunately. So this is a special equipment gear set for Assassin that I made myself, let's say. We are using lots of unique items, so most of the pieces are gonna be very easy to acquire. But because I wanted to push my DPS, I obviously used some self-crafted, let's say, rings. I'm not sure, some not jewels, but yeah, we have some crafted pieces. I'm also gonna explain how to do those. Obviously, that is what we are doing in this channel. So you are gonna learn everything in the end. So this is a build that you should consider playing in next league, probably, because right now you probably don't play. For an end game build, almost all content, let's say. I haven't tried Simulacrum because most builds right now cannot finish it. It is super hard as solo right now, and it makes even maybe sometimes no profit while playing as solo, because if you are not fast enough, it makes no sense right now. So I'm not gonna mention Simulacrum, obviously, but you can kill every boss, including Feared, you already watched. You can do any farm, Legion, just annihilates the entire Legion. Also Nemesis, triple beyond, double beyond farm, you can do everything like that. This is almost an all content build. So let's just start explaining the character first. So Assassin has obviously synergies with power charges. So unstable infusion +1 power charge, gain power charge on crit and non-crit, so you can just generate power charges. Deadly infusion, crit multiplier per power charge, and maximum crit strike chance. So this character will in the end have lots of power charges. Crit strike chance just caps the crit strike chance with flasks if you are not capped. So the character will have 100% crit. Everything is gonna be crit. All monsters are gonna get shattered, destroyed. So you can enjoy that shatter sound, Herald of Ice explosions, those kind of stuff. A satisfying build in the end. Mistwalker, elusive on crit. Elusive obviously provides chance to avoid all damage from hit, so it is similar to the old dodge mechanic, and also movement speed. And also you are immune to crit strikes while elusive. You are going to be elusive all the time if you hit something. That's why this character is like 90% of the times crit immune, so huge defense there, alright. And finally, opportunistic, boss killers must have, notable, let's say. Where is that? 25% more damage, while there is at most one rare or unique. So you will just annihilate the bosses, and also reduce damage taken if the conditions met, alright. So let's just start with the items, or maybe just check the gems first, alright. So the skills are obviously main skill for clear, Ice Shot. So this is a 6-link in our weapon or body armor. It doesn't matter unless you have Forbidden Shako helmet. So let's just explain all of them at the same time. So the skills we are using: Ice Shot for clear, with chain support, obviously, LMP or GMP support, depending on what you want. Normally LMP is enough because the character already has +2 arrows. So with LMP 4 and the skill itself, alright, 5 arrows total with Dying Sun, 7 arrows while mapping, which is enough. Also we have chain, obviously, so the arrows actually chains, meaning that they will hit more than one target once you shoot them. So the clear speed is gonna be enough. But if you for some reason need GMP support for more projectiles, but not that you will lose some damage, DPS, let's say, you can also do that, but I played with LMP. So one important thing about LMP and GMP is there is actually an anomalous quality that lowers the mana cost a lot. So consider using that. Also consider using Inspiration and Divergent Inspiration for another mana cost reduction. So in the end, you can actually lower the mana cost a lot. Alright, if you have any mana problems, make sure you get those two alternate quality support gems. So for the barrage itself, if you are using Forbidden Shako helmet, you should obviously use barrage in that. If you cannot find the helmet, obviously you should play with the regular 6-link setup. So path of building have both of them. Again, I'm telling you, if you can find and afford a Shako, it is better for DPS. But capping resistances is gonna be harder, and especially if you are mapping, if you also want to use a headhunter, it is like impossible to use Forbidden Shako. So while mapping, you will obviously won't need that extra 5-6 million whatever DPS. So just skip Shako and play with regular 6 links, and it's gonna also gonna be easier to build the character. If you want to play with Shako, the good gems are obviously, so the number one gem that what makes Shako is better, let's say, Ice Bite. So the higher level of Ice Bite is obviously the better. Mine had 34 level, I believe the maximum is 35. So try to get a huge level of Ice Bite. So how are we gonna scale Ice Bite? Because it requires frenzied charges. So normally assassin have lots of power charges. If you also use Badge of Brotherhood amulet, which is these days cheap enough, 50 chaos under an exalt most of the times. Let's say I bought this for like 50 chaos, I believe. You can actually make your frenzy charges equal to your power charges. So if I can generate, let's say 7 power charges, I can also generate 7 frenzy charges. Or if I can generate 10 power charges, I can generate 10 frenzy charges. So they are going to be the same number, but this amulet actually do not give any generation effect. So you can actually need to generate that frenzy charges, those frenzy charges somehow. That's why obviously the next piece is going to be Farrul's Fear. So the cheap option is Farrul's Fear, generates power charges and frenzy charges at the same time. The higher budget option is Replica Farrul's Fear, because Assassin can already generate power charges. In the end, once you have the budget, do not use a regular Farrul, get Replica Farrul, so you can actually generate endurance charges instead of power charges. And you will still generate the frenzy charges. They are the same in both Farruls actually. So in the end, Replica Farrul is better for Assassin, because endurance charges will obviously provide defense, especially to physical damage reduction, you know. The character also has armor, by the way. We are gonna check the rest of the equipment soon. I'm just explaining how the build works right now. So in the end, you will have equal to your power charges and frenzy charges as equal, alright? And will generate them automatically. You just need to hit a couple of times to generate those power charges if you have Replica Farrul, obviously. For Farrul to work, also let's explain that if you are new to the concept, you need Aspect of Cat buff. It is from Menagerie, from the Einar Beastmaster. If you don't have the beast, its name is Farrul, First of the Plains. Just buy it from someone and just kill the beast by crafting. You should first of all put a rare item to the altar and then click the beast and whatever kill the beasts, and it's gonna get crafted as a suffix. So the rare item must have an open suffix, alright? The item can be a ring, belt, boots, whatever rare piece you are wearing. If you are wearing something that has a socket, you can also put less duration support in that item, and that less duration will actually get attached to the Aspect of Cat, because Aspect of Cat has 2 buffs that cycles between. They normally have like 7 seconds duration, I believe. One of them has like 7 seconds, I believe. The other one is like 4 seconds, whatever. So there is like a 10-second cycle time, let's say, until you hit the same buff again. So if you don't have like 10 seconds of duration on your frenzy charges, let's say, you can actually run out of charges. That's why you're using a less duration support, crafting Aspect of Cat on an item with an open with a socket, let's say, alright. So you can put that red socket, less duration in it, and that can actually lower the time on those buffs, so they will cycle faster. So you can actually have permanent frenzy charges easily. and endurance charges without doing anything. I actually put Aspect of Cat on my ring and it wasn't an unset ring. That's why I couldn't do it. But if you can do it, you should do that, alright? Put that less duration somehow. And that's why I actually invested in 1 point on my talent tree for additional charge duration. And that actually let me just have permanent frenzy charges. So I just wasted 1 point on talent tree, no big deal. But if you can do that, craft that Aspect of Cat on an item with a pocket, alright? Like a boots, gloves, or an unset ring. Now that I made that clear, let's just continue on rest of the gear so you will know what to buy, what to craft. So main weapon, the weapon that you should always use, Arborix bow. So this bow actually got nerfed until I put that video in 3.10. In 3.11, bam, the bow just got nerfed. I was probably one of the reasons that it got nerfed, because that build was so much powerful back in that time. So why is this bow good? First of all, if you haven't cast dash recently, you have 2 additional arrows, which means that more clear speed while mapping and also better single target DPS, because barrage obviously have lots of projectiles in it. So that means that you will have 2 additional projectiles hitting the boss, meaning more DPS obviously. So projectile count is very important in this build. Also attack speed if you haven't cast dash recently. So let's say that you are at a boss, you obviously try to deal some damage, so you are not using your dash anyways. So that means that you will have those 2 arrows and attack speed bonus up at the same time, so you can actually destroy the boss. If you just cast dash, it means that for 4 seconds you will lose those DPS, but instead you will get evasion rating and movement speed. So that's gonna be also nice while mapping. But because you will lose that 2 additional arrows, you can notice that maybe your clear speed is lower. So do not dash all the time if you are doing that on other builds. So this is not the build to dash around all the times. You should dash when you want to actually dodge something. The character is already super fast because it is an assassin. Assassin is already a fast character. So because it is also an archer build, also got tailwind, elusive, those kind of buffs, the character will be fast. Also use Quicksilver flask obviously, maybe with movement speed on it. And you're gonna be fast enough, so you normally do not need to use dash anyways. The bow also grants you dash itself, and it is a 30 level dash, so it will feel good actually. So you don't need to put any mobility skill somewhere else. And you cannot also use another mobility skill, by the way, because the bow says travel skills other than dash are disabled. And finally, iron reflexes, meaning that you will actually convert evasion rating to armor rating. So this character have no evasion but have huge armor. So normally without flasks or anything, I have like 10k armor. If I have a jade flask or whatever, maybe it can also be a granite flask, and you will have more than 20k armor. And if you also use dash while mapping, let's say, you will have that 100% and 58%. That is what my bow has. Evasion rating, so you will have like 30-40k armor, I believe, once you use dash. So while mapping, you can also maybe do that if you want to get hit less, I'm not sure. So in the end, the build have enough armor so you can actually tank physical damage comfortably. So you won't get one-shotted like most of the other archer builds, let's say. So the bow provides lots of stuff at the same time. It is not an expensive bow, it is usually under an Exile. So we are gonna see how it goes. And should you use another maybe rare bow later on? If you have like maybe 50 Exile, probably yes. Maybe a dex stack bow, but I'm not sure if, because we don't scale dex that much, I'm not sure. Maybe a better crafted, let's say, physical bow, let's say, with additional arrows also, because that is super important. A faster bow, maybe a ticket bow with 1.5 attack speed at least, something like that. Maybe it can be better. But this bow was like 1 Exalt, let's say 6 link is like 3 Exalt, 4 Exalt, whatever. But those kind of rare bows are at least 50 Exalt, and especially physical bows are super expensive because most people do not even craft them. Because they are not meta, they are super hard to craft. So this is gonna be your bow in the end. Voidfletcher Quiver. So this is a drop from Uber Elder, so this means that another reason for this build to it cannot be a league starter, alright. Also it has some expensive pieces, so you shouldn't try this at first weeks anyways. So Voidfletcher actually has a passive ability that triggers on its own, let's say. You'll just generate those void charges. You cannot generate them in hideout for some reason. So you should be in a map or somewhere that has monsters, let's say. You will actually notice those charges generating on the upper corner of your screen. And once you shoot any arrow, it can be ice shot or barrage, you will actually shoot some blue, I'm not sure, dark blue or whatever the color is, arrows, and they will just explode. I actually like the animation a lot. Sometimes it actually covers the screen, but I actually enjoy them a lot. It is satisfying in my opinion. And once you use barrage, they actually, I believe, are stacked on top of each other. Maybe they can even shotgun, because that's why they are dealing so much damage. So this quiver is always like this. I actually again abused this in 3.10 when no one was using it. But it is still like this. I didn't see any nerfs. So this actually deals a lot of DPS also. So while checking Path of Building, maybe you will see like 26 million barrage DPS, but that's not it. We also have a couple of million, probably, Voidfletcher DPS, because we cannot calculate that, unfortunately. But I'm right now checking Void Shot damage in Path of Building. It says 384k, so almost 400k. So if that is the damage for each shot, let's say, maybe like 2 million damage burst, I'm not sure. I don't know how to calculate that, but this quiver will obviously provide you a couple of million damage. DPS maybe, yeah, that's pretty much it. So one thing about this quiver, because it is a penetrating quiver, that means that the implicit is gonna provide penetration. You may want to get rid of it, because penetration just screws up with the clear speed on pretty much all bow builds, because penetration comes first, I believe before chain. All right, that means that you should get a corrupted Voidfletcher. It can be any corruption if you have a lower budget, but the good ones are added physical damage or cold damage with bow attacks. Physical damage as extra cold, because our bow is actually a physical bow, then gets converted thanks to ice shot, and also I'm using a Watcher's Eye, and also I have conversion on Talentry. So physical damage also works, physical damage as extra also works. So they are good corruptions. If you have the budget, bow additional arrow, which is I believe hundreds of exalt, but not sure right now because it is super rare, or chain +1. They are super expensive corruptions. Obviously I don't use those, but if you just want to min-max the build, if you want to spend hundreds of exalts, you can do that on this build, because it will totally worth it. This is a ridiculously powerful and fun, again almost all content, I'm not counting Simulacrum, a bow build. So you can just do those in the end. Next, gloves. In my opinion, easiest way to get curse and lots of other DPS, Hands of Eye Templar. I'm using two curses. One is obviously, let me just also check it in Path of Building. I don't want to mess things up. Yeah, Sniper Mark. Yeah, alright. So one curse is obviously Sniper Mark, because this is a projectile build. Most projectile builds use that for huge DPS. And the other one is Elemental Weakness or Frostbite, because they both provide penetration. I'm using Elemental Weakness and put it on Hands of High Templar as a corruption implicit, obviously. You can also get a ring maybe with curse, but I'm gonna explain rings in a second, and you will notice that if you want to use the same setup, you cannot actually put any curse on your ring. So that's why we are gonna explain that in a second. So that's why I am using curse on my gloves, but you can start with a Frostbite or Elemental Weakness curse ring, and later on get the rings that I'm using. So let's just finish this piece. Curse, Elemental Weakness obviously. Attack speed is good. Attack save crit is good if you don't have a capped attack crit maybe. But again, it is very easy to cap crit strike chance on Assassin. And one thing to mention, I actually do not use Diamond Flask. So I actually kept my crit chance without Diamond Flask. So once you have enough gear, Diamond Flask is totally useless on Assassin characters, because Assassin can easily cap his crit strike chance. So maybe you can skip attack save crit, maybe use Diamond Flask, I'm not sure, alright. So you should do your own calculation on your own build. So attack speed, attack crit, ele weakness curse, maybe life. +1 gems, maybe you can put some of the gems there, maybe they will provide more DPS, so they are good. But main thing is obviously curse and something else for DPS. Attack speed is obviously very nice. Boots. Because this is an assassin, meaning that we don't have tailwind normally, obviously tailwind is your best option for good DPS. If you have the budget, you can just maybe use Awakener Orb and maybe get some shaper modifiers like Avoid Ailments. avoid projectiles, onslaught, on kill, elusive, and what's that? Not elusive, obviously this is an assassin, already has elusive. Elevated mods, let's say. So just maybe try to combine it with something, but Tailwind alone will simply work, so you can focus on some resistances also, so you can have a cheaper boots. For the enchant, best option, damage penetrates 10% elemental damage resistances if you haven't killed recently, meaning more boss DPS. If you mainly do maps with this character, attack and cast speed if you have killed recently is nice. You can also get maybe stun avoidance if you are playing with a lower budget, but later on this character is actually half stun immune. What does that mean? So next pieces, so I will just explain those right now. Mark of Elder ring and a rare ring. So how does this work? So Mark of Elder is a super cheap ring. It is actually another drop from Uber Elder. If you want to get something with obviously higher rolls, it can go up to 1 Exile. But just put up live search. Most people do not even know how to price them and just snipe something. So the good rolls are the highest attack damage as possible. It goes up to 80%. Try to get something that have 75% at least, let's say. And also 10% life. Because this is a life build, try to get the maximum roll as possible. After that, use the attack catalyst, I believe, and juice those numbers. So actually, right now my ring has 92% attack damage. So you can just actually buff that value. But that damage actually works if your other ring is a shaper item, meaning a shaper influenced item. There is actually another condition on the ring. Cannot be stunned by attacks if your other ring is an elder item. If you actually use Awakener Orb and combine Shaper and Elder Influence on a single ring, you can actually get that attack damage buff and cannot be stunned by attacks at the same time. So because this is already a high budget build, I also wanted to do that because arrow builds mostly are not stun immune. That's why I wanted to be immune to attack, so I can actually face tank and just delete most of the bosses like Minotaur, Chimera, because those bosses can easily stun you if the maps have some shit rolls. So that's why I wanted to be attack stun immune. That is what I mean by half stun immune, because you can still get stunned by spells. So in the end you can just do something like that, but obviously to start the build you only need a ring with Shaper influence, that's gonna be it, but later on you should craft your own ring. I'm saying craft because you cannot find anything like that on the market. No one uses that kind of stuff. No one plays this kind of build, let's say, because this is a special build. So how to craft the ring, let's just explain that. I probably also recorded the crafting session, so I will also put the clips. I hope I haven't deleted them, but probably not. So you can also watch them at the background. But if you just have the option to get a Shaper ring to start playing the build, so the good stats are obviously life, resist, maybe open prefix to put minus mana cost. I actually haven't done that on this build. I didn't get any mana cost reduction. I can just play with the regular mana costs on this build. On Shaper base there is also cold damage against chilled or frozen enemies, so it's a good flat damage. And that's it. Maybe Assassin Mark Curse, I'm gonna say, but Sniper Mark is way better. The character already has kept crit strike chance, so Assassin Mark will only provide crit multiplier, so it is probably not gonna worth it. So just get a Shaper ring with some cold damage on it, and that's gonna be your low budget ring. Later on, how to craft the double influence ring, let's just also, explain that right now. So first of all, for the base type you can also get an opal ring for even more DPS, but because the build already has overkill DPS, I picked Vermilion ring for additional life. So one of your rings must be Elder, so pick that Vermilion ring and buy that as Elder or Shaper influenced. You should check the item levels required for the modifiers that we are going to use, so I'm not going to mention those. Just check POE database website and check them yourself. So if you picked an Elder Vermilion ring, that means that you actually need to craft life gain for each enemy hit by your attacks. That is what I picked. So I can actually be tankier, I can actually leech more life. Because Baran shoots lots of projectiles, it is easier to face tank bosses with more life gain on hit actually. But if you don't want to do that, you can also get crit multiplier. But you notice that my ring actually have both of them, because you can actually craft crit multiplier later on. So I actually do not recommend you to combine the rings with get a crit multiplier Elder base and combine it with Shaper something, alright? I don't recommend that, because you can easily put crit multiplier later on. But that can cost you a couple of exiles. Obviously, if you want to spend less, just combine Elder crit multiplier and Shaper added cold against shield enemies, and that's gonna be it. But if you want to craft the exact same one, let's just explain that. Get an Elder or Shaper Vermilion ring, get another ring with the other influence. It doesn't have to be a Vermilion ring. So one of your rings must be the good one, alright? Opal ring or Vermilion ring. Use alterations to craft life gain for each enemy hit by your attacks on the Elder ring, and shield enemies cold damage to the Shaper ring, alright? Both rings are ready. We are crafting those with alterations, obviously. So the rings can be blue, magic. After that, use Awakener Orb. Click the bad ring first. Click the Shaper, and not Shaper, the Vermilion ring or the Opal ring, whatever it is, as final. Bam, two rings gets combined, you know, to a single ring, and it's gonna be Vermilion or Opal, whatever you clicked last, alright? So it's gonna be the good ring. So the ring will have attacks, life gain for each enemy attacks, and cold damage against shield or frozen enemies, guaranteed. And the other stats are gonna be random. If it is super shit, you can just sell it and maybe craft something else. So here's what I did. I used like 2 or 3 Awakener orbs, and luckily one of them had life on it, and it was tier 1, I believe, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I just crafted the rest on top of that. So maybe try to get a good prefix while doing that, because both shield, frozen, cold damage, whatever, and life gain for each enemy hit by your attacks are actually prefixes. So if you can also hit that third prefix, maybe a damage stat or life, it means that you can actually easy to fix the suffixes. That is what I did. So later on, if you don't have any open suffix, you should get keep prefix, reforge suffix, harvest craft, and try to remove one of the suffixes by re-rolling it like that. After that, put cannot change prefix from the bench, and buy reforge a rare with crit modifiers. So that way, because we locked the prefixes with cannot change prefixes from the crafting bench, once you use a reforge something, it cannot actually change the prefixes. So the good ones are gonna stay on the ring. That means that the suffixes are gonna get re-rolled, gonna get reforged with crit modifiers, because I chose crit, meaning that I have high chance to get crit multiplier, because crit multiplier is already a suffix that can exist on Elder bases. So that is how you can actually add that crit multiplier later on. That's why I do not recommend to combine a ring with crit multiplier at first. But again, if you have a lower budget, just pick crit multiplier and damage against shield enemies. Combine the both and use the ring. That's it. That's gonna be the low budget option. Lower budget option, let's say. Because you are gonna still use Awakener Orb. So meaning that you are gonna spend a couple of exiles anyways. But this is how to craft this ring. Not that hard actually. If you are not familiar with Harvest, maybe you should do some experiment before the league ends with some spare currency maybe. But normally these kind of crafts are not super hard. And finally, I still had open suffix. That's why I put aspect of cat on my ring. But again, you should probably put that on one of your other rare pieces that can actually have a socket, so you can actually put less duration. It's gonna be better in the end. But I just gotta do this, alright? That's why I put that on my ring. And finally, if you still have an open suffix, you can put a resist or any attributes that you are missing. Since I didn't need any of them, I actually put shock nearby enemies for 4 seconds when you focus to get even more DPS. Normally this is a cold build, I don't use skitter bot, so I cannot shock anything. But this way I can actually shock the bosses like 15%, I believe. Meaning that more DPS to burst a boss. So I actually could fit in extra DPS. And that's it. This is probably the only piece that you should craft. The other items are mostly uniques anyway, so the build is actually not hard to build. You just need the budget. Later on, belt, final piece. Hunter Stygian vises. I also have a guide on how to craft these. I'm probably the first person to shoot a guide years ago, once they first add the Hunter influence types. I just discovered how to craft these and shoot a video. If you still haven't watched that, go and watch that. You can even make lots of profit while doing that. But these days most people know how to craft these, so it is harder to make actually huge profit, let's say. But these are common belts. People just craft these all the time. So life, max life, increase max life, so meaning even more life, because you don't need more DPS in the end. There are actually crazy stats that boost DPS on belts, like projectile attack damage under a flask effect, I believe, attack speed while again on a flask effect, LA damage attacks, cold damage. There are lots of stuff, but you don't need those. And since we are using lots of unique items, you definitely need some resistances. So a hunter based belt is your high budget option. Max life, increase max life, resist, another resist or strength, whatever you are missing, and elemental damage with attacks, obviously. Desperate damage is nothing else to explain. For the socket, just put something with maybe accuracy, life, attack speed, crit multiplier, any resist. So put a good Abyss Jewel, even a corrupted blood jewel. That is what I did, because Abyss Jewels are mostly cheaper, because most builds do not use them. They are actually cheaper compared to Viridian jewels or those kind of jewels. Because this is an attack build, if you don't have a capped hit chance, make sure you put maybe accuracy on some of your jewels. Or if you are using a rare gloves, maybe put accuracy on that. But I don't have accuracy on any of my items. You can normally cap your accuracy easy, because the talent tree already provides some. Alright, we finished the long part. I'm just gonna explain maybe some gems and the jewels in this section in Path of Building, and that's gonna be it. First of all, we already take a look at the barrage, ice shot, those kind of stuff. The rest of the gems are here. I already explained some of them at the start, but no need. You can just follow the gems in Path of Building anyways. So just if you want, again, lower mana cost, get Divergent Inspiration and Anemolus LMP. Again, if you want more projectiles, do not use LMP, use GMP instead. Again, Anemolus provides the same stuff, reduce mana cost, so they will actually help you while mapping, so you can spam more without the leech occurring, let's say. So this is actually good, so that's why in the end I'm using something like that. Let's just check the mana cost. 13 mana cost. The character is actually super fast. Yeah, I guess more than 4 attacks per second. So that's why having lower mana cost helps. Because again, I didn't use any mana cost reduction on my jewelry. Nothing provides mana cost reduction. 2 of them are unique anyways. What else? Again, if you have Shako, just use Barrage in that. If you don't have Shako, this is an option. So this is your 6 link without Shako. Most of you are probably gonna play this version, because it is hard to find good Shakos. And you don't need it again. Let's just also show the DPS here. I believe something like this. Probably. Let's just check. Yeah, more than 20 million. Still overkill for most of the bosses. You will just do all content anyways. So you don't need Shako in the end. What else? So let's check the buffs. Hatred, obviously this is a cold build. Herald of Ice for clear speed, because it explodes stuff, you know, shatters, cold damage going on, whatever. Gorgeous explosions. If you have any MTX, this is a good place to use that. Grace Aura for evasion, and then gets converted to armor, because we have iron reflexes. But obviously we didn't get it on the talent tree, because the bow already provides it. What else? Only level 3 Enlighten. I do not use level 4 Enlighten these days. I just stopped it because it is super expensive these days. So you are gonna spend less. Just 3 level Enlighten. I believe you can even play with 2. Probably yes, but not sure. Because single target actually requires lots of mana. 37 mana cost on Barrage. Maybe put -7 on your ring. I'm not sure. But yeah, maybe you can play with level 2, but again, I'm not sure. Or maybe use, let's say, yeah, I didn't use Inspiration actually. Maybe use Inspiration instead of some of these gems. Have a lower mana cost. It's gonna be probably something like 20 something mana. So that way you can even play with a level 2 Enlighten, I believe. So let's check this setup. This is for additional boss DPS, obviously. So if you have a Shako, that means that you will have an empty body armor or weapon, whatever you didn't use, let's say. So that's why you can make an Arcanist brand setup to apply some of the spells automatically. So Frost Bomb for exposure, cold exposure. Sniper Mark is our #1 curse choice because it provides ridiculous amount of DPS. Creeping Frost or Vortex, they both work, I believe, so play with whatever you want. I actually mostly use Vortex, but this time I wanted to test this. I hope I didn't mess anything, I'm not sure. But I saw some people on other builds using Creeping Frost a lot. That's why I wanted to test that. But you can just use Vortex again. And with Bone Chill support. So that's why you need Bone Chill. Maybe Frost Bomb is enough for Bone Chill, but not sure actually. So probably you should use something like this. Vortex or Creeping Frost. Because Bone Chill actually increases the damage taken from cold skills by a certain percentage amount by the chill effect, let's say, based on the chill effect. So this is a good boss setup. Just press your brand, it's gonna get attached to the boss and gonna cast all these spells, bam bam bam. I also use life tap, so I don't have to worry about mana. So if you have this setup, 6 linked body armor, meaning that you will have 4 sockets left, so you cannot actually use the same setup, but you will still use the same gems. So here is how to do that. First of all, obviously don't use life tap. So that's why maybe you should need a little bit more mana. Maybe play with inspiration support so your barrage won't eat all the mana. Maybe you can do that. But if you think the mana is fine, because you will obviously leech the mana back. So yeah, that's why just skip life tap. That's gonna be no big deal. And after that also skip Frost Bomb. So why are we skipping Frost Bomb? Because once you use this setup, alright, you will use Awaken Cold Penetration. Normally, I normally use that already, yeah, so we probably don't need Frost Bomb anyways. So on Awaken Cold Penetration, there is actually a 10% chance to inflict cold exposure on hit. So you still apply the cold exposure, but it has 10% chance. Maybe you cannot proc it as soon as possible normally, but it is no big deal. So that's why you should probably skip Frost Bomb. These qualities, by the way, doesn't matter that much. Area of effect, skill effect duration, so just some cheap alternate qualities. So skip life tap and Frost Bomb, use Brand, Grip Frost or Vortex, Bone Chill obviously, and Sniper Mark. So that's gonna be your 4 link once you are playing with a 6 link body armor rather than a Shako. And that's it. And finally, some other stuff. Blood Rage for attack speed. You can skip this because the character, I believe, doesn't have enough regeneration normally. So you may notice that you are losing a little bit life once you are not doing anything. So maybe skip that if you want. But if you want more single target DPS, obviously this provides good DPS thanks to the attack speed. Precision. Yeah, by the way, you can use a lower level precision if you have any mana problems. But maybe you won't have a capped hit chance. So having 100% hit obviously is nice. But playing with 98% won't be the end of the world if your mana is more comfortable. So try to figure that precision level depending on your own character, because your hit chance might be different compared to my character. For the guard skill, I'm using a steel skin or some what's that, absorption. You can also use molten shell because the character already has some decent armor. Even use Val molten shell if you want. If you want to use molten shell or steel skin, just put it on your left mouse click and it can actually get activated without doing anything while you are moving your character, because the skill is actually instant. Divergent actually provides plus resistances, so if you are doing maybe elemental weakness maps, it can actually help a little bit from time to time. I'm not sure. This was just cheap, I just bought it. I believe this is better Anomalous because it has 10% amount of damage taken, whatever. But this was, I believe, expensive or not sure. I just bought Divergence just for some... I just want to do something different, let's say. And that's it about the gems. Let's just check the talent tree and some of the jewels. So first of all, these days one of the best places to put a Thread of Hope large is this location. So you can just get all these good notables for bow builds, penetration, bow damage, bow attack speed, lots of stuff. Crit element damage, so lots of good stuff for elemental bow builds. Ele damage, flask, ele damage attacks, bow attack speed, bow crit. So it's simply ridiculous. Just get this Thread of Hope as soon as possible with large ring. Obviously try to get the highest res as possible, so you will have better time keeping your resistances, let's say. Another perfect places for another unique jewel, Lion Eye Fall. Once you have the budget, try to get something maybe with crit strike chance, cannot be maimed, or a blood immune even, but that's gonna be super expensive, so that's why I just used a cheap Searching Eye jewel with corrupt blood immunity. So just get some good corruptions later on if you have the budget. Penetration is nice, obviously. So this actually converts all the melee weapon type modifiers to bow modifiers. So as you notice that this wheel is actually dagger wheel. So that's gonna be actually bow. Once you are in the game, Path of Building cannot show it, unfortunately. But anything that says daggers actually gonna be bows in the game. So once you are in the game, just stick the jewel in and you will just read that these actually says bows actually. But obviously the DPS gets calculated. I just lost, what's it is, 8 million DPS I believe, just from this jewel alone. So simply ridiculous place. Just put them all. Because you actually got all the passives to the notable, you can even get the masteries actually. So you can get crit strike, save culling strike. My bow already had culling strike corruption on it. That's why I didn't have this. But if you don't have a corrupted bow, something like that maybe, obviously get this mastery if you want to cull the bosses. I highly suggest that. It is only 1 point. So this is a good mastery. There is leech here. If you need leech at especially early levels, if you don't have cluster jewels yet. I believe the other ones are not that good enough. Let's check the other dagger mastery, see if there's anything. I believe not much. Yeah, so culling strike is definitely good. Leech is definitely good. But later on, once you have the cluster jewels, obviously you can get leech from cluster jewels. That is what I did. So I believe we will have checked the clusters and that's gonna be it. So let's start with this one. Because I didn't want to invest in any points for leech, that's why I picked this. Beat the free fuel to fight martial prowess, the good old combination. You can just find these anywhere. It doesn't have to be on bow base, it can also be on attack damage, which is gonna be easier to find actually. Most people craft those on attack bases actually. So anything that says attack damage or bow damage works for this build. Martial prowess, attack damage, attack speed, accuracy. Nothing else to explain that much. Feed to fury to get attack leech and some good bonuses via leeching. And also fuel to fight for mana leech and attack speed. And also attack damage via leeching. So a good combination in the end. The other large one is Cold Jewel. It is only 2 passives because it is cheaper. I don't want to spend 10 Exalt on a cluster jewel. I'm not gonna do that. So this was like 3-4 Exalt, I believe, something like that, because it is a 2 passive one. The best one is Blanket Snow, 10% penetration. And Prismatic Heart, obviously, for easier resist cap. If you can recap your resistances without this, get another notable. Just craft the jewels in Path of Building yourself and see what provides how much DPS. You can just calculate them on your own. You don't need to ask to me or anyone else. You can just calculate those on your own in your Path of Building. So you can just do those and get different combinations if you want, but Blanket Snow is probably the best option. And that actually what makes this jewel expensive. Again, it was like 3 or 4 Exalt, I believe. Because this actually have a lower weighting, so it is hard to craft this normally. So just buy it from someone else if you don't want to bother crafting. I always buy these kind of cluster jewels. I don't want to bother crafting those. The medium ones, the most popular combinations. If these get any nerfs, I'm not gonna be surprised actually, because most builds use these. So crit medium, 4 or 5 points. The large ones are obviously 8 points are the best. Anything higher than 8 meaning that you will waste points. And on mediums, if it is 6 points, you will waste a point. That's why 4 or 5 point. Because if it is 5 points, you can actually skip it, as you can see. So I didn't get this normally. So no need to waste any points. So just go like this. The basic of pain, damage, crit strike chance. Nothing to explain. Pressure point, double damage chance. Your crits have double damage. We have 100% crit, meaning that we will have 5% crit, 5% double damage chance all the time. So just stack those for more double damage chance. And that's gonna be it. I actually used another jewel here because this was providing more damage. I thought that 10% double damage is enough. That's why I picked Repeater and Eye to Eye, because this provides ridiculous amount of percentage damage and actually provides more DPS than basics of what's that? The other combination, let's say. Maybe it is different for your character, but normally this is better once you have good gear. So just use these combinations. You can even use 3 of these if you want. I'm not sure. Just check the DPS. If you think your DPS is fine, just use whatever medium you want. For the smalls, if you want live fatal, obviously. For live, you can maybe get live notes on the talent tree. If I missed anything, maybe use another jewel here. If you think you can play with a lower health, most of times archer builds aim for 4.5k life at least. Having more than 5k life is actually super hard these days if you want to maintain good DPS. But once you have ridiculous amount of DPS, good movement speed, some maybe armor, those kind of stuff, you will just one-shot bosses anyway, so you don't need more defense. Actually, this is how to play most of the bow builds. This is a must if you want to reserve the same auras. So first of all, the base should be mana reserve efficiency, so you can actually have better mana pool left in the end. Sublime form, race has 50% increased mana reservation efficiency. Because we are also using hatred, I believe you can also get the notable with hatred. I don't know the name, just check here, you know, just craft it and see for yourself. You can also check Path of Exile POE database website to just get a reservation efficiency. Because I picked this because it also provided 10% resistances, because it is sometimes hard to cap resistances. That's why I picked this. Actually, hatred reservation is better, I believe, because no, I actually didn't get that. Weird. Yeah, there is actually, you can also do that. Let's just also mention that. Get this for 2 points, because this also provides some resistances, so you can actually cap your resistances easier. It is hard to say resistances. I cannot say it sometimes. There's also 25% mana reserve efficiency here. So if you get this, you can actually use the hatred small jewel. So that actually gonna result in more mana left. Because if you just get the same reserve efficiency over and over, it actually doesn't stack that good, you know. The calculations are a little different. So that's why it's not going to be 75%, let's say. This one have 25, this one have 50. It's not going to be 75% reservation, actually. It's going to be less than that, 60 something maybe. So that's why having a separate modifier with maybe hatred, that is actually better. Let's see if I maybe crafted anything here. Let's just do that, alright? Because I will probably forget it. And I just want you to know that that also exists. Hatred reserve, let's say. Small cluster. Please don't crash. Path of building lags right now. Sometimes my path of buildings crash, by the way. Where's that? Hatred, come on. I want to find it before it crashes. It is probably gonna crash because it lagged a lot. What the? Where's this? Oh my god. What? Yeah, this one, I just missed it. Alright, let's just put it here and save before it crashes. So you can also use this, alright? I believe that's pretty much it. Let's also check the Watcher's Eye, and that's gonna be it. So because the bow is called physical bow, we already have some conversion. So you want to convert that physical to cold, alright? There's also a cold mastery here for conversion. And I also got a Watcher's Eye, because this is normally provides the best DPS, unless you are using another kind of bow. So conversion is your #1 choice. After that, if you have the budget, try to add something else. I added precision crit multiplier. You can also get precision attack speed or precision attack damage. You can get another hatred modifier, but double hatreds are super expensive. If you get something like this, it is gonna be very cheaper. There is also vitality life on hit, so you can actually face tank easier and have even more leech per second. You can also get that maybe. And they are all the auras that we are using, I believe. And that's pretty much it. Just checking one more time, because this is an important build. I don't want to miss anything. I hope I haven't missed anything. I cannot see it right now. So if anything is unclear, obviously hop onto my Discord and ask me questions if you want. This is where to get the second curse, by the way. It's from the talent tree. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and maybe share this video, because these kind of builds doesn't exist. I want more people to play these kind of non-meta builds, actually, because most people just try to play meta and just get bored, you know, easily. Just play these kind of builds. They are super powerful. Obviously, you want to farm currency. This was a high budget build. I recommend probably at least 50 Exalt. I'm not sure if I spent more than that. But Replica Farrul was expensive. Yeah, I probably spent 70, maybe 80 Exalt. This build was under 100 Exalt once I did that, but not sure right now. because the league is dead. So do not compare the market prices from this moment to another league or something like that. Prices always change. And that's it. I will see you later. Bye bye.